We'll take a swift turn now to talk about human trafficking. Recently, there's been an increase in the number of persons being trafficked abroad. Several attempts to put a stop to the trend has also been challenged by those involved. Our next report takes a look at the problems and prospects by governments to put a stop to human trafficking. According to the U.S. Department of State Trafficking in Persons report, Nigeria is reported to be a source, transit, and destination country for women and children subjected to forced labor and trafficking. They're alleged to be recruited from rural areas and, to a lesser extent, urban areas. Some of the male victims are recruited for forced labor in street vending, domestic service, mining, stone quarrying, agriculture, textile manufacturing, and begging. Nigerian women and children are taken from Nigeria to other West and Central African countries, as well as to South Africa and Europe for menial labor and prostitution. In the first quarter of 2015 alone, the agency responsible for the prohibition of trafficking in persons in Nigeria, NAPTIP, received a total of 130 cases of human trafficking and other related matters. 32 of such cases were of child labor, with a percentage of 24.6% of the total cases reported during the period. External trafficking for sexual exploitation also had 30 cases investigated and monitored. Also, in the wake of terrorist attacks and the mass movement of people to internally displaced persons camps across the country, an NGO alleged that camp officials subject children in such facilities to labor and sex trafficking. Last week, officials of the Rapid Response Squad rescued 4 ladies from a suspected human trafficker in Lagos. They alleged they were being taken to Libya by their trafficker, Ganiat Ajijola.
I can do my own work there if I like, but I don't even know.
There's work there. We have shop there, hairdresser shop and tailor.
It is hoped that with penalties, which prescribe a minimum of 5 years imprisonment and a minimum fine of 1 million naira for trafficking offences, the recently passed Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Law Enforcement and Administration Act of 2015 will go a long way towards curbing human trafficking in Nigeria. Let's talk more now about human trafficking. Joining me on the News at 10 is the Lagos Zone Commander of NAPTIP, Mr. Joseph Famaking. You're welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you for inviting us to your program.
The numbers have been increasing, over the years, people being trafficked based on different, disguises, being taken abroad they promise them that they're going to school, and then eventually they're being trafficked in foreign countries. What has been your experience trying to get rid of this crime?
Thank you. Human trafficking is a global problem. Each country is either a source, transit, or destination country. But Nigeria is a source, it's a transit, and it's also a destination country. The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons is the focal agency in Nigeria responsible for the eradication of trafficking in Nigeria. In carrying out our mandate, we have been able to come up with what we call the 4 Ps. These 4 Ps are structured in a way that we get to the vulnerable before the trafficker. The first P is called prevention. It is our responsibility to prevent the trafficking of our children, either for sexual exploitation, labor exploitation, removal of organ, and other form of exploitation.
How do you do that?
We carry out sensitization by going to schools, by going to religious organizations. We go to media houses. Last year, in partnership with Wale Adenuga Production, we produced a drama called Itoha. This is to enlighten members of the public on the methods used for the recruitment of our children. Because traffickers in Nigeria are people close to victims. They see traffickers at the first instance as somebody sent by God, a good Samaritan, that has come to remove their family from poverty.
So how do you identify traffickers when you see them, at various ports in the country? How do you identify them?
Officers of NAPTIP are trained on how to identify traffickers. Their modus of operandi is known to us. If it is at the airport, thank God for the new measure adopted by the government on biometric passport. Previously, a young girl traveling with an old man or a middle-aged man, and such a person is proclaiming the person to be her husband, there's the need for us to check if it's a first timer. It could be somebody who is being trafficked outside Nigeria for sexual exploitation.
Are there signs, perhaps maybe body language or, I don't know, the questions you ask?
Most of the time, the victim, there are questions you ask from the victim. They are naive. They've never left the confine of their villages. So going to Europe, much as they are excited, you will be able to, from their body language, you will know that the person they're traveling with is not actually their relation. That they have already been, the only thing that has been done is that the trafficker has been able to play on the psyche of this victim. And whatever question you ask, they tend to answer you in the affirmative. And so you know that this is a victim of human trafficking.
You find sometimes that the people who are being trafficked tend to go willingly with their traffickers. Have you seen instances where the person being trafficked was very unwilling and it was clear that this person was in danger of going with, the trafficker?
We've come in contact with the two types, willingly and those who are unwilling to go. Those we call willing victims, most often, they don't know what they will face when they arrive at destination country. Even where some of them are told they're going for prostitution, but because of the deception involved, whatever consent earlier granted is not valid. For instance, a girl that is into prostitution along Allen Avenue is accosted by a lady who promised to take her to Italy and that she will earn more than what she's presently earning. Unknown to the girl that on arrival at Italy, whatever she's going to earn for the first 3 years, she's not going to get anything out of the money. That she's going to be on the street of Italy where she will solicit for men and pay to the Italian mafias that has custody or that are the owner of the road where she's soliciting. She's also not aware that she has to pay up to 60,000 euro, which translates to about 12 million before she regains her freedom. Furthermore, she is not aware that even at -5, the weather condition, she'll be required to stand on the road to solicit for men. Because of all these conditions, because of all this deceit, the earlier consent granted is invalid. And so they are not willing victims. Most of them are deceived to go and sell their body.
Mr. Famaking, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10. We have been enlightened by your comments on this issue.
Thank you.
And when the News at 10 returns, Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo showers gifts and food items on widows and other women in Osun State. Please join us again.